Doom v Vamus v Vamus Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing well, particularly since we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X-Men number 174, Romances. Well, this is Loveline, the X-Men edition, alright? We get Wolverine being rejected by Mariko, who names the Silver Samurai as her heir. Xavier and Lilandra both acknowledge they must part ways to uphold their duties to school and empire. Kitty continues to seduce Colossus and adopts the new superhero persona of the mighty Jailbait. Nightcrawler gets a hugging pillow of his sister-girlfriend Amanda Sefton. Heck, even Corsair is shacking up with a squirrel, and Storm decides to break up with her houseplants. But of course the real story is between Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor. The two have suddenly become engaged, but Scott can't forget an old Phoenix flame, and it doesn't help that Jason Wyngarde seems to be following the couple around, and it sure looks like the Dark Phoenix is back. Alright, Stojr, despite my cheeky comments there, what are your thoughts here?
Oh, I love this issue. I think it's it's the calm before the storm. I think Chris does a great job with all of this soap opera stuff, with this time, with these sort of like slowing down in between things, right? There's a connection between what's happening in Japan and what's happening with Mastermind. They definitely overlap because he's planting the seeds over there. But these are almost like two separate arcs. And this is the passing the baton from one arc to the other. I love the space stuff. I think Paul Smith draws some great panels there. I like that we're keeping tabs with Carol and what's going on with her in space, with the Starjammers. I'm not sure. It makes me interested of like, is that collected somewhere? Is there like, I don't think there was a Starjammers comic. Was there? Did she have her own book going on at that time? Was there something?
There was a Starjammers mini-series, at least, but I don't think we got anything long-lasting.
Yeah, those, I think there's, I have them. It's been a while since I read them. There was a two-issue one, which I can't remember if that was just reprints or if that was something new. That was Cockrum on art. And then there's a miniseries in the 90s. But I don't know if there's something else or where that's collected. But it'd be interesting to see them in space and kind of what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar to what they do later in the 2000s with like Guardians of the Galaxy, right? They kind of ship people off into space and they have a rotating cast with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But you actually get to follow them there. So I find that interesting. I like that Kitty's reading a Star Wars comic. I think that's fun. I mean, Marvel probably had the licensing at this point in time, so a little cross promotion there. We get a little, I don't know if this is the first time, but we get a little bit of a deep dive in Peter painting, which will be a theme for his character for many years to come. It's something that he likes to do. I'm not a fan of kind of Colossus and Kitty kind of making out in Storm's attic, right? I get the Kitty side of her, like, stealing a kiss, but by the time Storm gets there, they're almost full on making out. And there's a good 5 or 6 year age difference here between the two. If you figure Colossus was 19, and if you paused his age and upped Kitty to 14, they're still a ways apart. Reading this in retrospect with the things that we know now, I think takes a little bit away from the intrigue and the possibilities of what this could be. Because at the time, if I omit from my memory what I know, this could be the Phoenix returning, or it could be all an illusion by Mastermind. To the point where Madeline might not even be real at all, right? Like, so we know she's real because we've read things, we've been around. Came out 30 some years ago, right? You'd be hard pressed to not know that fact reading the X-Men. The other thing is, I always kind of thought, and I don't know why, because I don't know if Sinister does this later, but I always thought the priest was Sinister for some reason, in disguise. And it might be because there's something that happens later that Sinister does do some sort of like, guy on a plane, priest on a plane disguise to kind of copy or call back to this. But I always got them mixed up in my head, or maybe I was always thinking of this and thinking that was Sinister. And we could talk about Sinister at a later time and why his name might be something that was brought up, but try not to spoil too much here. I think Madeline decking Scott is great, and at that point in time, I don't think anything's wrong, right? Like on that page, I'm like, yeah, you might deserve a punch in the mouth, right? I mean, it might be a little extreme, but she's been dancing around the fact that she just happens to look like his ex-girlfriend, and then he straight up just asks if she is, and it's like, what I've been dealing with this for weeks. What the hell? But then you get the last page reveal of the Dark Phoenix. Marvel has been looking for ways, Chris has been looking for ways to bring back Dark Phoenix without resurrecting her. This is the second bite at that apple, and this one's going to be a little bit more interesting than just the kitty with the costume change or image inducer or whatever you want to call that Shi'ar technology from last time. What did you think?
Yep. Agree with you on a lot of this stuff. I've said before, you just said now, I like these issues in between the action. This is where the soap opera happens. This builds up the characters into people that we care about rather than just toys that are fighting one another, right? The cover art, I think, on this one is great, actually. It's simple, but it's striking. It kind of gives away the ending a little bit, but it's still fun to look at. And you know what? Here, I'm gonna put it up on the Comic Viewer. I just like Lockheed. You know what? I want more pets in comics. That's just this fun little interaction between him and Kitty, cooing and puffooing or whatever he's being put down. I like it. Come on, give me more of that.
You not to get into too much spoiler territory, but do you like or hate what they do with Lockheed in like the Astonishing X-Men era? There's a Or do you even remember that?
I don't know if I made it to that point. Well, no, wait a minute. Astonishing, is that the Joss Whedon?
The epics are out. So that's that's like the Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon.
Is it Joss Whedon?
Yeah. The Buffy guy.
And Cassidy art. Yeah.
So I read those when they came out, but I don't I remember some things about that. I remember the resurrection of a certain character and Kitty's involvement and space being involved. I don't remember Lockheed in that, so maybe.
Yeah, well, we'll save it for the fanfare or some other future thing because I can't talk about it without it being just a spoiler. So we'll get your thoughts without spoiling it in this episode.
And, since I have this up on the Comic Viewer with Kitty reading the Star Wars comic, I did look into this. So this is Star Wars number 73. Marvel does have the license at this time. This book came out in July of 1983, so a couple of months before this issue, which, of course, that makes sense. They had to get the art for it. I looked up a synopsis of this issue on mycomicshop.com, which said Leia and Danny break into the Lashby's city to secure some vital tapes, prompting Luke to provide backup in Losbane in quotes. And I have no clue what any of that is. I recognize the name Leia and Luke, and that's about it. But I think Kitty mentions the Lashby's in her comments, right?
Yeah, I can't see the text there, but...
All right, yeah, here, I'll read it. Let's see, she tells Lockheed, that's telling Luke and Leia, 3PO. Boy, Lockheed, these Lashbys sure have a way with words, you know? To which Lockheed replies, meh. All right. Anyway...
Yeah, my Star Wars lore doesn't know what any of that is, but I have not really collected or read the comics, so...
Yeah, and We've discussed it before. I don't really care for Star Wars. You could convince me to read the original Marvel Star Wars just from an historical perspective. I could be down with that, but I'm not looking to. Let's see, Stojr, I've got a no prize for this one.
All right, what you got?
All right, here we go. The Most Unnecessary Caption Award goes to editor Luis Jones, who felt it necessary to tell us that Wolverine is saying the name Mariko, and that is somehow translated from the Japanese. Well, that's her name, regardless of language. Maybe that caption would be more appropriate in the following panel that has actual dialogue, but in this one, I don't think we need to know that that's translated from the Japanese.
Yeah. Well, what's funny too, and this is a bit of a spoiler for reading ahead, but like the passing back and forth of that sword gets a little silly, and this is it's not mine, it's yours, it's so he sends it to she sends it to him, and this is him trying to return it or vice versa, but it's not the first time the sword will go back and forth.
Yeah. All right. Any other final thoughts there, Stojr?
We got a big 20th anniversary issue coming up next. Looking forward to that.
Okay. Well, again, if you guys enjoy our thoughts, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full big collected edition comic once a month, plus these daily one-shots. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.